And I think you giving it a half-point ding for that is really and I think that people look at it. I think that last little thing is such a beautiful way to end it. And it's not like he's some wimp kid from 2024. This is when you had to be tough.
Go yourself.
One of the greatest memorable Disney films ever. A teenage boy grows to love a stray yellow dog while helping his mother and younger brother run their Texas homestead while their father is away on a cattle drive. First thought to be a good-for-nothing mutt, Old Yeller is soon beloved by all. I know that was a short synopsis, Joe, but actually when we get through it, this is kind of known to a lot of people. But we're going to get into the things we loved about the film. But before we do, here at Real Watchlist, we want to take a moment to thank Lighthouse Photography for allowing us to film at their beautiful studio. As a husband and wife team with over 15 years of experience, Lighthouse Photography brings you most cherished moments to life through their passion for stunning photography and creative graphic design. From breathtaking wedding photos to heartfelt family portraits, check out their work at lighthousephotography.com and follow them on Instagram at Lighthouse Photography, where memories are captured for a lifetime. Now back to our episode.
3, 2, 1, flip.
10.
Wow, 10.
Yes, I give it a 10.
Stick around, folks. I have a 9.5, and I'm going to show you and tell you why my vote is not a 10. I saw this as a kid, and it's funny because when we were asked to do this film, the first thing out of my mouth was, oh no, I don't want to see this film. One of the saddest Disney movies, people have said. And if you have never seen this movie, watch it. You need to watch it. We'll tell you why. If you've seen this movie before, stick around and listen to some of the tidbits of information that we found out during our research.
Now, initially, when I saw Old Yeller, I saw it on The Wonderful World of Disney, The Wonderful World of Color, which used to be on Sunday nights, and I would watch it, and then after that I had to go to bed. So you could tell what age I was when I watched it. And this was, actually I always talk about being a farmer. We had a beautiful farm, we had tons of animals, so this really, and we had a lot of dogs, this was a killer. And this actually kind of traumatized a whole generation of baby boomers.
Yeah. And Gen X's.
Yeah.
And even some millennials too, because I was talking to people about the movies that we're doing. When I mentioned Old Yeller, and when you mentioned Old Yeller to somebody, even, millennials, they're like, ooh. Again, a movie based on a novel written by Fred Gipson, 1956. And it takes place after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting, realizing this now as an adult. Didn't realize it as a youngster.
No, had no idea.
They're in Texas.
Right.
It's a family who's moved because of the war and opportunity and trying to make a new life. And the father, who's played by Fess Parker, the father is Jim Coates in this movie, the Coates family. And he needs to raise some money by leaving the family for several months and going off and selling.
He goes on a cattle drive. Yeah.
They're talking about money, and there's a cute little scene between the brother and the two brothers, Travis and his younger brother, and they talk about Confederate money and how they had Confederate money, and the little boy is like, well, what's money? And he's, money can do this and that. And he goes, well, why can't we do anything with this money? And it's Confederate money. So at that point, I guess Confederate money was worthless.
But you know what? Here's the thing about Confederate money. Just a little tidbit with another film. I never knew about it or thought about it till Gone with the Wind. Then it seemed like you knew what it was, But it was worthless after the Civil War. One thing I loved about this movie, and you don't see it that often, and maybe people would think it was hokey, but I loved it, that they opened it with a song. And the lyrics were so good, and it showed all these scenes of, their life and the dog running and everything, and they ended it with a song too. Old Yeller, Old Yeller, Old Yeller. It's a really great story about life and loss.
So you have Jim Coates and Katie Coates, husband and wife, and they have 2 young boys, Travis and Arliss, who's the little boy that sort of gets mischievous. Kind of a period kind of thing. A lot of films had the little young boy that was just getting into and out of things. Father's leaving, and Travis, who's a tween at that point, I think he's like 12 or 13 years old in the movie, has to be the man of the family. So he's got to plow the field, watching mom, watching his younger brother, and comes across this dog, a mongrel, and hates this dog. Just like, because the dog is just getting into things that are disruptive. He's chasing after the mule.
Yeah, the first thing he does is he knocks all the fencing down.
He's trying to plow the fields.
Which takes forever to put fencing up back in the day.
Knocks all the fencing down, dog takes off, mule takes off, and now he has to repair everything. But then his younger brother, Arliss, comes across the dog, and he loves the dog. And all of a sudden, there's a little bit of a change in Travis's thoughts.
Demeanor.
Maybe this is not a bad dog. Maybe you are a good dog. Because prior to that, he was just like, I don't want this mongrel around.
Well, he was linked to the young boy, and then all of a sudden, Travis takes him out hunting, and he sees the worth of the dog. And a really good hunting dog back then was essential, just like a great horse. I mean, they were hard to come by.
Right.
You know?
Come to find out that Old Yeller is not only a good dog, but also a protective dog.
Right.
And there's a scene where the dog and Arliss are going about their business, and Arliss starts to get close to a baby bear. Not realizing that a baby bear, if you're near a baby bear, mama bear is going to be close by.
She's real near.
Arliss gets into this situation where the mother bear is coming out. Arliss is all by himself. He's like, oh my God. Old Yeller comes into the scene, jumps in, and starts attacking the bear, protecting Arliss. And the mother's running out, and Travis is running out. This dog saved Arliss. If the dog wasn't there, Arliss would have been mauled by this brown bear.
And after that point, they start to love the dog, and they start to bring the dog to let the dog come in the house. Because until then, it was like outside the house, you know.
Wouldn't be a mongrel in there.
I loved the Disney films back then because Disney always had all this mischief with animals. He'd have like, you know, raccoons running in, going around a record player, or that darn cat. The cat was doing all crazy things. And they have a lot of those scenes in here. So as children, you got to see all different kinds of animals in the wild. There was so much more nature than kids actually see now.
Right.
Because there was more nature back then. But you got to see the animal. I don't know how they did it. It's like Nat Geo photography. How do they get animals in their regular habitat? Almost like acting. And that was one thing Disney was absolutely great at.
These cute little vignettes, these little scenes that build up to this, we love this dog. You know.
Which as an audience, we build up to loving the dog just as much. Another thing I liked about the movie is it shows the resilience of people back then. Like now, nobody knows how to do anything. You know, nobody even mows their own lawn, barely. They don't do anything. But back then, when the father left, the mother knew how to like stitch somebody up or save something or use a poultice or do whatever they had to do. They just kicked in and did it. Right. They were amazing people that were just so, you know, resilient.
And it's funny you mentioned the stitch scene because there's one scene where, again, Travis has to be the man of the family. So he's trying to, I guess, mark the hogs. And he picks up, he's on top of a tree branch. And it's this weird thing. Matter of fact, you wouldn't, I don't think, see it nowadays, where Travis is trying to catch this group of hogs, and he's pulling up a rope with a little hoglet. Travis falls off the branch because he's trying to pick up a heavier hog, and all of these hogs are like now in the point where they're trampling Travis. So Yeller comes in, but then Yeller gets bit. And you talked about stitching. Mom comes over, and she takes the horsehair, rips it off.
Unbelievable.
And it was so well done film-wise because you don't see her stitching Old Yeller.
You never have to.
And it's the brilliance of the movie. You don't have to show what's happening right there. You can show it from a different angle, from a different perspective, and still get the same, and even sometimes more of the feeling. So
because it makes your imagination work, and you know, who wants to see the bloody stuff happening? I mean, then it kind of breaks the momentum of things, I think, sometimes, you know?
And Old Yeller's getting stitched up, and all of a sudden, you know, he's healing, he's coming back to, you know, getting to be the Old Yeller. But then they throw in a little bit of a, like, oh, okay, now I see kind of where this is going, where Travis is told about, they don't use the word rabies, they use the word hydrophobia.
Yeah, which is
if you
fear
don't know
of
what
water.
hydrophobia, basically it's rabies.
Well, it's fear of water because when animals have rabies, they won't drink. And when you put water by an animal that's rabid, it's like a vampire with a cross. Yeah. And the funny thing is, we learn so much as kids because that's how I learned about rabies from watching the Disney movies. That's how we learned about so many things that kids don't know now because, you know, we learned that that was bad. And of course, it was the harbinger of doom for the future. Not spoiler, but whatever. But, you know, we didn't even think that because the movie goes in so many nice little directions that when it does come to an arc or a conclusion, you go, whoa, I forgot about that. And then it gets you. So that's clever writing and clever filming and directing.
Well, the movie changes as we get towards the end. We find that they have to burn the cow because the cow has hydrophobia.
Right.
And by burning the cow, the mother, Elizabeth, all of a sudden there's screams because there's a rabid wolf out there. And once again, Old Yeller comes to comes to the rescue. Travis is trying to get out there as fast as he can with his rifle, kills the wolf, but then realizes that he got bit by this rabid wolf.
Right.
I don't want to tear up. I'm actually, when you talk about that scene where the realization of Old Yeller is not going to get better. He's rabid. He's a terror. He will kill you and members of the family. Mom has the rifle in her hand, gives it to Travis because Travis says, no, I need to do that. That's the point where Travis goes from being a boy to being a man. And you're seeing the shot of Travis's face as he's pointing the gun at Old Yeller. You see one shot of Old Yeller, rabid, but it's Old Yeller. You see his face. I mean, and then as you turn back to Travis, there's tears coming out of his eyes. It's like, oh my God.
In a lot of old animal movies, when anything ever happens, like a horse breaks his leg or anything, it's always the person that owns it is the one who kills it. Says, I have to do it. But it was just unbelievable because the dog had such expression that the dog was acting constantly.
Right.
I mean, that dog had about 20 nuanced expressions in its face. It's amazing.
Right.
And that's what makes it so sad because you grow over this time period, I don't know, it was an hour and a half or whatever, to love this dog.
Right. And anyone who's had a dog and he's either had to put a dog down or to find a dog that's been hit by a car in an accident, you know what that feels like, and you know what Travis is feeling. And after the shot, the next day, they're buried, Old Yeller, with rocks on top of their gravesite, and he's just standing there with Elizabeth, and he can't be consoled. Elizabeth is there for him, with him, but there's nothing that he's trying to understand what's happened
Plus,
here.
you know what I found out really sad is even before Yeller gets rabies, the fact that he's part of the family in the house and they lock him in the shed for like a week and the dog can't understand why he can't be with the family. That's so sad. And they're going out looking at him and he's giving them a look like, can I come in the house? And, you know, that's what brings the ending to really kill her. Because if they just had, I think he's got rabies, then he has rabies and they got to kill him. But it's that week period where you don't know yourself. And when they're checking every time, oh, he looks okay. He doesn't look okay. And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah, you know. So did you cry?
I didn't cry this time because I knew it was going to happen. I did find it completely heartfelt and such a successful. But when I originally saw it, it's like a day I couldn't function properly. I went to school like weird. You know?
I remember.
Everybody did, because everybody watched it on Sunday nights. Everybody was weird the next day. But I think, you know what? I'm not sure. I mean, we saw Bambi, we saw Dumbo, all these things which were very sad. But it wasn't the first live narrative film that had an animal that, you know, died that we saw as children.
Yep. And it's noted in Disney history as the saddest film ever made. Anyone who's seen it as a kid knows.
So we really want you to go see it. You know, everybody really wants to say, wow, I'm going home tonight. That's a feel-good thing.
I won't watch movies that have, like, dog killing. It's like, think about it nowadays, folks. You're watching people get slaughtered left and right. You're watching horror movies getting slashed and bloodied and all that stuff.
They have a choice, but animals don't.
Throw in a movie with a dog like Marley and Me. Oh, I can't see that. I still haven't even seen that. Today we're taking a little bit of a shift in gears. with a wine. So we're not doing mixed drinks today, but we're doing a wine.
Oh boy.
Why are we doing a wine? Because we're whining about this film? No, because this is a wine made by the Fess Parker Winery. You compare the movie with a classic representation of one of the main and major actors of the Disney studios, Fess Parker. Fess Parker was Jim Coates, as I mentioned earlier. He was an actor who starred and co-produced movies for Disney, for Paramount, and for Warner Brothers. Jim Coates was not only a cowboy in many episodes of different movies for Disney, but he also was Davy Crockett. Fess Parker.
King of the Wild Frontier.
Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier.
And after Fess Parker retired from acting in the 70s, he purchased a 714-acre ranch on the Foxen Canyon Wine Trail in Santa Barbara County, and then established the Fess Parker Wine and Vineyard. This 2002 Chardonnay has flavors of ripe apple, butter, lemon, and melon, which are perfectly balanced with a light toasty oak on the palate. Toast, so sit back, watch Old Yeller. You're going to be getting soppy, and so have a Chardonnay and pay tribute not only to the movie, but to one of the great actors of the Disney studios, Fess Parker.
Yes.
Cheers.
Clink. Now, I'm not a wine person, so I love Fess Parker, but...
This is good. This is light. Oh, she's got the face. What the hell? It's a Chardonnay.
I don't like wine.
She likes sparkling wine. She likes Prosecco and Champagne.
Yeah, I do. I don't like Moscato, though. Too sweet. I have my
Moscato,
limits.
ugh.
I have my limits.
This is really good, folks. Highly recommend it. So I am Travis today. I'm the older version of Travis. I have my overalls because I'm out in the farm, out in the wilderness. Yeah, Travis didn't have a tattoo.
Barbed wire? Is that what that is?
It's not barbed wire.
What is that? I don't even know.
Tribal. Tribal. Yeah, and it's not in fashion
Well, you
anymore.
should say barbed
folks.
wire because they use that back in the plains on
Tribal.
ranches.
Tribal. And I'm wearing my Musketeer hat because Tommy Kirk, who played Travis, started out as a Musketeer.
Yes.
So here you go.
Watched the show every day. I used to fight with my sister because she wanted to watch American Bandstand. And I always won because I was littler. My father put Mouseketeers on.
What about your costume? What the hell's on your head?
Well,
homie,
I got this. I get help from Susan Bloor, and I'm going to give her a shout out because she always helps me. And this, I'm a prairie mom.
You're
or a prairie grandmom, I guess.
You want a rocking chair, Grandma?
Yeah, I don't know. But this is the best I could do until we have our giant budget. Then I can dress exactly like the film. And I represent home because home is the basis of this place where Old Yeller lived, in a home.
And home is where the heart is. There's only 7 actors in this whole film.
Yep.
And that's talking about everyone. There's no cameos, nothing.
Nothing.
Which was amazing when I found out. I'm like, wow.
Why would there be cameos?
I don't know.
There would be no cameos.
There were no
back
American
then.
Indians coming in,
Put in like
or there were no
Power. Let's go to Tommy Kirk, who plays Travis.
Yeah.
He was in 11 Disney movies, and he did very, very well until his bubble burst at Disney.
Yeah, Tommy was closeted. He was gay. You're talking about the 50s and early 60s, and you didn't dare come out in Hollywood. Otherwise, you were done. And again, a young boy realizing who he is becoming a young adult, gets into a little bit of trouble with a 15-year-old boy. And as the story goes, he's on the set doing, I forget which movie it was, but Walt Disney himself called him in. And he says, as he's called into the office, the parents of this 15-year-old boy are in the same room.
Oh, boy.
And immediately he knew, like, the jig is up.
The jig is up, yeah.
And it was at that point, and then later he had another altercation, a little different with pot. And barbiturates too, but those were prescribed. And again, Hollywood was full of this.
And so many child actors had so many problems because they were. Then I don't think Disney exploited people, but they made film after film after film, and they were known as the face of Disney. Like Kurt Russell was one of them. You know, he was in Disney.
Disney didn't renew his contract. That's sort of how they let him go. He ended up working for another studio where he appeared in the beach movies, the beach bingo bikini area.
Those Oscar written all over the movies.
Yeah, and you got to think about this for this kind of B-rated studio. Tommy Kirk was one of these childhood actors that people knew and loved. They saw him in Disney. He was a headliner, basically.
Yeah.
And now they're seeing in this like kind of
Beach blanket bingos.
bingo. And beach blanket bingo is sort of like movies came and went.
Yeah.
He talks about in his interviews that it was at that point where he was like 18, 19 years old, that he knew he was gay and he knew there was no going back.
Yeah.
As he was coming out more, he was realizing that there were more gay people out there. But then, he's still looking for that father figure. And they talk about a movie that he was in with my three sons' father. Help me out.
Fred McMurray.
Fred McMurray. He was in a movie with Fred McMurray, and he tried to get to know Fred McMurray because he was kind of like a father figure, but Fred McMurray sort of like pushed him back. And he admits later on that maybe he just came on too strong, trying to make a relationship more than just an acting relationship. And really, from there, drugs took over. Tommy ended up leaving show business and starting his own upholstery company for 20 years. I know, it was like, really?
Well, what are you going to do?
But it was at that point where he cleaned himself up, got sober, got his life back in together, and he appeared in little bits here and there, but it was 2006 that Disney and their Legends of Disney gave him the honor of being a legend. So it was sort of like redeeming in that sense that he was recognized by the people that left him, kind of. When you read his and see his interviews, this is where I had respect for him. He admitted that, if I was in that same situation, I can't blame Disney for what they did.
No.
I would not have expected to continue my career with the drugs, with the relationships. So he admitted responsibility for that.
Well, back then you never saw the warts on people's noses. Everybody was the persona of what they were on screen. And you can't blame it because the studio represented family. All right, I want to talk about the dog. The dog's name was Spike, and he was trained by Frank Weatherwax, who did Lassie. He was the big dog trainer in Hollywood at the time.
And do you know what type of dog he was?
Yes, I do. I have it in my notes.
I'll help you out
And
there.
I have such exhaustive notes.
See, now she's fuddling with her notes. She used to make fun of me when I was fuddling with my notes.
I want to tell you something about another thing you don't know, though.
Okay, well, we're going to test me out. So, Old Yeller, Spike, as he was called, as his real name.
He's 10 years old.
10 years old, was a 170-pound yellow mastador.
Yeah, Mastiff.
Yes, Mastiff, a labor retriever.
Mastador, not a matador, Mastiff. Now
Mastador.
I remember. It all
Mastador, M-A-S-T-A-D-O-R.
He was a Mastiff.
Which is Labrador Retriever, English, Mastiff cross.
Well, they didn't have corruption of breeds back then.
And he was a pound dog, too. He wasn't purebred.
Yes.
Which I love. They got him as a puppy, trained him, and he appeared in other movies, too. Some of these dogs did really well. These animals?
Yeah, well, their trainers did. They just could, put them in everything. And just to say that the death of Old Yeller is referred to as the saddest moment in all of film, the film world. And a lot of people describe it as the worst moment from their whole childhood.
Yes, it's traumatic.
Can you believe that? I know, it's very traumatic,
Robert Stevenson, who was the director, he also did Mary Poppins. He was known for being great with child actors. And all the interviews that I saw, the child actors just remarked on how well he was able to relate to kids, let them sort of evolve in their scenes, and was famous within the Disney world. There's some really interesting trivia with Old Yeller.
Yes.
I don't know if you know, they used ketchup for the blood scenes.
I did not know.
Ketchup and dirt. The wolf, as you mentioned, was a long-haired shepherd.
Yes.
The growling and snarling.
Oh, that I know.
Where'd it come from? Tell me. If you don't remember, I got it right here.
No, but I know what they used it for in the future. Do you know what they used it for?
Yes.
Can I say?
Go for it.
Or is that Joe's thing?
No, it's not your thing yet.
The Exorcist.
Oh, very good. But I'm talking about another movie, but
It was the sound in The Exorcist.
But it was also a sound in Lady and the Tramp. Old Yeller actually had a product line named after Old Yeller, dog food. And Old Yeller Day is celebrated annually on the last Saturday of September in Texas, in Mason, Texas, at the library, where they show movies, parade. They celebrate Fred Gipson, who wrote Oh Yeller.
Wow.
There's a wine tasting, so it's really cool. So I think we need another road trip.
Well, first of all, we'll have to celebrate it next year. We didn't know. We were celebrating something else the end of September. I don't even know what it was.
You going to Italy.
Oh, yeah, that.
So leading up to Joe's thing. Deb, this is a true or false question. Off-screen romances were not unusual in Hollywood. And so this will be a true or false. After Old Yeller was done, Elizabeth and Travis, Tommy Kirk, and Beverly Washburn had a romance. True or false?
True, you told me about it before, like 10 minutes ago.
Very good, you're paying attention. Debbie's right.
How can I not pay attention when I'm sitting right next to you?
I'm gonna make
I
sure.
listen to your every
word. You got that thing on your head.
I hang on your words,
covering your
Joe.
brain waves.
I hang on your words. Plus, I only had one sip because I can't drink wine.
I love wine. But this one is for the audience, folks. This one is for you as you're drinking your Fess Parker wine and watching Old Yeller. If you know the answer, type it in the comments section. The first one who responds correctly will be given a shout out at a future episode of the Real Watchlist Plus. Here we go. Tommy Kirk and Kevin Corcoran would play brothers 5 times for Disney's. Disney did a lot of this. Swiss Family Robinson was another one. The mother also came back.
Yep.
The last one, though, where they both appeared was in a 1963 sequel to Old Yeller. There was a sequel. What was the name of the sequel? And which actor was the only other one to return to his character role? Answer correctly, we'll give you a shout out. Don't answer the question. She doesn't know what it is, though. I'll tell her later.
I'll say I do, even though I'm not answering. Call of the Wild. During the Klondike Gold Rush, a traveler purchases a dog to lead the way towards the treasure, but reconsiders his journey when he finds a stranded widow. Don't accept the cheap remake and imitations that Harrison Ford did. I don't care. Watch the original. Lassie Come Home, 1943, another tearjerker. After her destitute family is forced to sell her, a collie named Lassie escapes from her new owner and begins the long trek from Scotland to her Yorkshire home and the boy who loved her. It made collies the most popular dog in America after that, and led to a TV show which ran for years, Timmy and Lassie. The Incredible Journey, 1963, an offering from Disney when they had great stories. 2 dogs and a cat set off on a treacherous 200-mile journey to get back to their family home. Do not accept the 2 remakes. One has them talking.
Oh.
The animals are like, I'm going home. Let me go home now. Oh, you can't. There's a bear there.
Ridiculous.
Born Free, 1966. The true story of George and Joy Adamson and the orphaned lion cub Elsa that they adopt in the wild. It was a huge Beyond hit, plus a song. The Yearling, 1946. Another killer tearjerker, you're on the floor dead. Starring Gregory Peck and Jane Wyman from the margin.
Get that movie, folks.
A boy persuades his parents to allow him to adopt a young deer. Wonderful and heartbreaking. Peck gives another wonderful portrayal of a father as he did as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. The deer, you can't even imagine what happens. We'll all be in tears. Don't miss it. And that's my watch list.
You rated it a 10. You told us why. I gave it a half-point ding.
Oh, here we go.
You want to know why?
Yeah.
It's that last scene. I thought it was oversimplified, and when it was heartfelt, but when Fess Parker, Jim Coates, talks to his son Travis, it's like, all right, basically move on. And then Travis is like, wait, what are you talking about? Then he kind of pulls back and starts it again and shares becoming a man, don't let the past hold you back from moving forward in the future. And then all of a sudden Travis is, I'm okay. Now, anyone who's lost a dog knows that you're going weeks and even maybe even longer trying to get over a dog. But again, I understand this is a movie, it's Disney, they gotta wrap this, button it up, and get it out to the public. So that's why I gave it a half-point ding. Otherwise, it's a perfect movie.
All right. Well, I think Its cultural impact on America, just think about this. Despite its tragic ending, Old Yeller has become a beloved film that's been credited with introducing children to concepts of life, loss, and responsibility in a more mature way than many other family films of the era. Just think, yes. And I think you giving it a half-point ding for that is really and I think that people look at it, I think that last little thing is such a beautiful way to end it. And it's not like he's some wimp kid from 2024. This is when you had to be tough.
Go yourself.
Very mean. Very mean to me.
Mean? The kid blows this dog's face. And all of a sudden, the father talks to him. He's okay. Everyone's happy.
She didn't blow the dog's face
Yes,
the night before, and then the next day the father comes home. In a little bit of time.
Come on, let's show them dragging the dog out and putting the stones on him to create a burial out in the field in the big horizon.
Do you know how long it takes to dig a hole and put stones on something? I know. Please. I had to kill my goat and put it in.
Your goat?
I did.
I quit. As we exit the show, here's my softball pitch to Debbie.
Yeah,
here we go.
Okay.
To quote, "A boy needs a dog, but a dog needs a boy," is most often attributed to Irma Bombeck. To make a classic movie review, though, a Joe needs a Debbie, but a Debbie needs a Joe.
See how he needs
but
me
now, where do we go?
Well, if this dog just doesn't bite you and attack you that I have trained to be vicious, Joe, you never know where we're going until we go there.